Just think, an emperor whose footsteps hold all the wealth of the world, every pleasure, and whose power knows no bounds. An empire over which the sun never sets. But one night in his lavish palace, even on soft beds, he cannot sleep. A deep question stirs unrest within him. What lies beyond all this? This happiness, this power, this body, will it last forever? When all this ends, what will remain with me? And just as one question, that great king abandons his kingdom, all his grandeur, and heads towards the forest like an ordinary seeker, in search of that supreme truth, after knowing which no fear or sorrow remains. This is the story of King Brihadrata, and this is the story of the knowledge he received from the Maitri Upanishad. In fact, this story is not just of one king, but of all of us who, somewhere in this hectic life, are searching for that true peace and supreme truth. Hello, and welcome to our spiritual journey. Today, we will uncover a precious gem hidden in the treasure of the Vedas called the Maitri Upanishad, also known as the Maitrayani Upanishad. Many people associate it with the Maitrayani dialogue of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, but this Upanishad is distinct from that. The Maitri Upanishad is an important part of the Maitrayani branch of the Krishna Yajurveda, and it takes us to the pinnacle of self knowledge through a dialogue. This Upanishad begins with a story. The great king Brihadrata of the Ikshvaku dynasty realizes that this body will one day perish, and all the pleasures of the world are fleeting. This realization awakens a deep renunciation in his mind, and he hands over the royal throne to his son and goes into the forest to perform penance in search of truth. After 1,000 days of severe penance, the self realized sage, Shakayana, appears before him. The king falls at his feet and says, "O Lord, I do not know the secret of the soul, but you do. Please kindly show me the path to liberation from this mortal body and the world full of sorrows." And it is from here that the wonderful dialogue begins, which is the heart of the Maitri Upanishad. This dialogue is not just between a guru and a disciple, but a response to that deep call of our own soul, which echoes somewhere within all of us. So let us set aside all our worries and embark on this journey with King Brihadrata to find out what secret the sage Shakayanya revealed to him. King Brihadrata's first and most fundamental question was the same that arises in the mind of every thinking person at some point. He said to the sage, "O Lord, this body is made of bones, skin, nerves, flesh, marrow, blood, and excreta. It is filled with foul odor and is devoid of essence. The desires, anger, greed, fear, sorrow, and jealousy residing in this body cause me pain every moment. How can I possibly experience happiness living in such a mortal and sorrow filled body?" Think about it. How true this question still is today. We work day and night to make our body beautiful, keep it healthy, and enjoy its pleasures. We associate our entire identity with this body. I am beautiful, I am weak, I am strong. But we forget that this body will one day perish. When the seas dry up, the polar stars change their place. Even the gods fade away with time. Then what trust can there be in a body made of these five elements? King Brihadrata's pain was this. He clearly saw that the I he considered himself to be was the body, which changes every moment and is a house of sorrows. Hunger, thirst, old age, and diseases. These are all natural qualities of the body. It is impossible to completely conquer them. So then, where is true happiness after all? Is there a source of happiness that does not vanish even when the body perishes? The sage Shakayanya understands the king's deep restlessness and genuine curiosity. They smile because the question itself is the first step towards the answer. Until we identify our real problem, we do not seek a solution. The king's question indicates that he has awakened from the illusion of worldly pleasures and is now ready for eternal bliss. Then the sage says, "O king, what you have said is true. This body is perishable, but you are not this body. Within this body, there is another element that moves it, but remains untouched by its qualities. And with this one sentence, the sage lays the foundation for shifting the king's attention away from the body towards the realm of the soul. He explains that just as a potter's wheel does not spin by itself but is turned by the potter, similarly, this chariot called the body is driven by someone else. This body is not intelligent by itself. Rather, there is another who imparts intelligence to it. Who is that? This is the next stage of inquiry in this Upanishad. To satisfy King Brihadratha's curiosity, Saj Shakayaniya reveals the two levels of consciousness. This is one of the deepest teachings of the Maitri Upanishad. He says, O king, the I that resides in this body has two forms. One is the Bhootatma, and the other is the Antaratma, that is, the Supreme Soul. The sage explains that when the soul identifies itself with this body made of the five great elements, it is called the Bhootatma or elemental soul. This is the soul that is influenced by the three qualities of nature: sattva, rajas, and tamas. When this subtle soul comes under the influence of rajas and tamas qualities, such as desire, anger, attachment, pride, and jealousy, it forgets its true form. Just as a clear crystal placed near a red flower also appears red, similarly, when our pure soul comes into contact with the mind and senses, it also gets colored by them. It is this soul that performs actions, experiences the results of those actions, that is, pleasure and pain, and keeps revolving in the cycle of birth and death. The sages say that this soul experiences illusion, fear, sorrow, and laziness, and considers itself the doer and the experiencer. This is the real root of all our sufferings. We all live at the level of the soul in our daily lives, which becomes happy or sad depending on external circumstances. After this, the sage points to that supreme truth, which is called the inner self or supreme soul. This is the pure, untouched, and real form of the soul. Even while residing in the body, it is completely separate from the body. It observes all the commotion of the mind but is not affected by the thoughts of the mind. The sage gives a very beautiful example. Just as when an iron ball is heated in fire, it becomes red and hot like the fire. When someone strikes it with a hammer, the blow affects the iron, not the fire. The fire remains unaffected. Here, the iron ball is our ego, and the fire is the inner self. The hammers of life's joys and sorrows, honor and insult strike this ego, but the inner self always remains calm and unaffected like a witness. This inner self is our true nature, immortal, fearless, and of the form of Brahman. It neither takes birth nor dies. It neither does anything nor experiences anything. It is just a witness, a light in whose presence the ego, mind, and body perform their respective functions. Just as all the work in the world happens in the sunlight, but the good and bad deeds of the world do not affect the sun, similarly, the entire play of life unfolds in the witness of the inner soul, yet it remains completely separate from this play itself. Hearing this knowledge, a new hope arises in King Brihadratha's mind. For the first time, he clearly understands that he is not what he had always thought himself to be. He is not merely a soul that suffers pain, but within him exists an inner soul, a never-ending source of joy. But now the question arises, how can one become free from the bondage of this ghostly soul and remain steady in the form of one's own inner self? Understanding this question arising in King Brihadratha's mind, the sage Shakayaniya now strikes at the real root of the problem. The body is just an instrument. The real cause of our bondage is the mind. It is here that the Upanishad gives that famous aphorism which resonates in countless scriptures. The mind alone is the cause of bondage and liberation for humans. Attached to objects, it causes bondage. Detached from objects, it is remembered as the cause of liberation. Its simple meaning is, The sole reason for a person's bondage and liberation is their mind. A mind attached to worldly objects is the cause of bondage, and a mind detached from worldly objects is the cause of liberation. Think about how profound and powerful this is. The sages are saying that your freedom or your slavery does not depend on any external circumstances, person, or fate. There's only one reason for it: your own mind. If your mind is stuck on external things, people, and outcomes, then you are bound. And if your mind is free from all these, then you are free, whether you are in a palace or in the forest. The sage further explains how this mind works. Our five senses, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, are like windows through which the objects of the world reach the mind. When the mind starts to take pleasure in these objects, expects happiness from them, it clings to them. This is called attachment. When we get our favorite thing, we experience a moment of happiness. When we do not get it, or it is taken away, we feel sorrow. When someone praises us, we feel joy. When someone speaks ill of us, we get angry. In this way, our mind constantly becomes a puppet of the external world, swinging in the swings of happiness and sorrow. This is bondage. So, does this mean we should leave the world? The sages say no. We should not leave things, but we should let go of the attachment in the mind towards things. Making the mind detached from objects does not mean destroying the senses, but rather not allowing oneself to be affected by the pleasure and pain that come from the objects of the senses. How can this be practiced? The sages show us the path of witness consciousness, to observe every thought and every feeling that arises in the mind like a spectator. When the thought of anger arises in the mind, instead of becoming angry, just observe that thought as one would watch clouds in the sky. When you start observing thoughts instead of flowing with them, you become the master of your thoughts, not their slave. This knowledge was like a beacon of light for King Brihadrata. He realized that the real battle is not with anyone outside, but within one's own mind. Giving up the throne did not bring him peace, because the mind remained the same old one. True peace will come only when the mind stops being a slave to desires and becomes a servant of the soul. Understanding this, he asked the sage, "O Lord, how can this witness consciousness be cultivated? What is the practical way to conquer this mind?" King Brihadrata's practical question inspired sage Shakyan to reveal a path that is not just a theory, but a concrete method of practice. The Maitri Upanishad describes a special form of yoga called Shadanga Yoga, meaning yoga with 6 limbs. It is slightly different from Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, but its goal is the same: to calm the mind and become established in the self. Sage Shakayan says, the means to attain that Brahman are as follows: pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, tarka, and samadhi. This is called Shadanga Yoga. Let's easily understand these 6 limbs. The first is pranayama, which means the discipline of breath. The sages explain that there is a very deep connection between the mind and the breath. When the mind is restless, the breath is fast and erratic. When the breath is calm and rhythmic, the mind also becomes calm on its own. Pranayama is not just an exercise of inhaling and exhaling, but it is the science of harnessing life energy to stabilize the mind. The second limb is pratyahara, which means withdrawing the senses inward. It means turning the senses away from the external world and directing them inward. Most of our energy flows outward through the eyes and ears. Pratyahara is the art of stopping this flow. Just as a turtle, upon sensing danger, withdraws all its limbs into its shell, similarly, a yogi withdraws the senses from the world and focuses inward on the soul. The third limb is concentration, that is, the continuous flow of awareness. When the senses withdraw from outside and turn inward, concentration begins. Concentration means continuously maintaining the flow of the mind on one thing. It can be your breath, a mantra, or a form of God. When you remain fixed on the object of your concentration without distraction, the restlessness of the mind begins to cease. The fourth limb is dharana, that is, deep concentration. This is a deeper state of concentration. When the mind completely fixes itself on just one point, it is called dharana. The fifth limb is reasoning, that is, correct discernment and self inquiry. This is a very unique and important link in the yoga of the Maitri Upanishad. Here, reasoning does not mean arguing, but rather self reflection with correct discernment. It is the continuous quest of who am I? When the mind becomes calm and clear through meditation and concentration, it becomes capable of contemplating this profound question: am I this body? No. Am I this mind? No. In this way, by negating all that is not I, one ultimately reaches that pure consciousness, which is witnessing all of this. This is reasoning. And the sixth limb is samadhi, meaning complete absorption. This is the ultimate goal of yoga. When the practitioner realizes their true nature through reasoning, the meditator, the process of meditation, and the goal of meditation, all three become one. The practitioner's separate existence merges into Brahman, just as a river merges into the ocean and becomes the ocean itself. Here, nothing else remains, no distinction exists. Only the experience of pure, blissful, and unbroken consciousness remains. This state is called liberation, moksha. By explaining the path of Shadanga Yoga, the sage Shakayan not only imparted knowledge to King Brihadrata, but also entrusted him with the complete method to transform that knowledge into experience. He explained that truth cannot be attained merely by hearing or believing it, but only by living it through practice. We have heard this profound dialogue between an ancient king and a sage. But does this knowledge, thousands of years old, hold any significance for us today, in the hustle and bustle of the 21st century? Does the spiritual quest of a king have any relevance to our social media driven and office time bound lifestyle? Absolutely. In fact, today, this knowledge has become even more essential than before. Today, whom do we associate our identity with? With our titles, our social media followers, the model of our car, or our bank savings? The Maitri Upanishad reminds us that these are all external labels which exist today but may not tomorrow. Your true identity, your inner self, is beyond all these and eternal. When you stop linking your happiness and your worth to these temporary things, you experience a deep stability that is unaffected by any ups and downs of the world. The Upanishad says the mind is the cause of both bondage and liberation. Where is our mind bound today? It is trapped in the continuously incoming information, preferences, comments, and the never ending scrolling. We are constantly hungry for praise and recognition from outside. Our happiness depends on how many people liked our post. Our sorrow is determined by what someone said about us online. We have handed over the remote control of our mind into the hands of others. The Maitri Upanishad asks us to take that remote control back into our own hands. It encourages us to become witnesses, simply observing our thoughts and emotions without judgment. This practice, now also called mindfulness practice, can free us from this mental slavery. The six-limbed yoga of the Maitri Upanishad is still just as effective today. Whenever you feel stress or restlessness, just focus on your breath for a few minutes. This is pranayama. Take a digital detox for some time during the day. This is pratyahara. Practice meditation for just 10 to 15 minutes every day. This will lead you to dharana. And ask yourself, what is the true purpose of my life? Who am I really? This is reasoning or self-inquiry. All of this will lead you toward a deeper meaning. Just as King Brihadrata was incomplete even amidst his rule, similarly, despite all material success, we can feel an inner emptiness. The Maitri Upanishad tells us that this emptiness can never be filled by external things. The way to fill it leads inward, the path to discover the inner self, which is the infinite source of peace, joy, and love. If the profound knowledge of the Maitri Upanishad has touched your heart and shown you a new light for your life, then become our companion on this journey of knowledge. Join this channel so that you do not miss out on such immortal streams of eternal wisdom. Encourage us by liking this video and tell us in the comments what your biggest challenge with the mind is. Is it a flood of thoughts, negative emotions, or a lack of concentration? By sharing your experiences, we will all learn from each other and move forward together on this path. So, what was the end of King Brihadrata's story? After learning the path of Shadanga Yoga from Saj Shakayan, the king undertook rigorous practice. He controlled his life force through pranayama, conquered his senses through pratyahara, and stabilized his mind in the soul through dhyana. Through continuous reasoning, he kept asking himself, "Who am I?" and ultimately attained the state where his small I merged into the supreme I. They were freed from the bondage of the ghostly soul and became established in their immortal and blissful inner self. They had come to the forest as an emperor, but now they had become a wise man, a liberated soul. This story gives us the greatest and most powerful lesson that liberation is not something that is attained in heaven after death. Liberation, or moksha, is a state to be experienced in this life, in this very moment. It is not achieved by changing external circumstances, but by changing the perspective within oneself. The essence of the Maitri Upanishad is this: you are not what you appear to be, that is the body. You are not even what you think you are, that is the mind. You are the eternal, peaceful, and blissful consciousness that is witnessing this entire process of appearing and thinking, illuminating it. You are not the wave, you are the entire ocean. Do not understand this knowledge merely intellectually. Try to incorporate it into your life. Become aware of every breath you take. Be the witness of your thoughts. Ask yourself, who am I? This journey may be long, but every step of it will take you from sorrow to joy, from bondage to liberation, and from darkness to light. Because as the Upanishads say, you yourself are that light. Tattvamasi, you are that. Thank you for joining us on this spiritual journey.